Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Your Blank What Now podcast. My name is Marcy Nettles, and I am your host. And I am so honored to have every single one of you joining us today. Today's conversation is going to be one of interest to basically all of us. So I'm really excited that you have joined in to hear it. You know, our guest today is Valery Ireland. She is a transformational health coach and mentor with over 15 years of experience in health and nutrition, training, healing, and strengthening the body through strategic movement. Her passion is supporting women to help them conquer defeat, frustration, and powerlessness when it comes to their relationship with food and their body. This is what drives her to offer an opportunity to transform. Valery helps women who are struggling with unhealthy eating patterns and diet confusion go from feeling trapped and powerless over food and emotions to becoming transformed and empowered at the core level, fully alive and activated, healthy and whole. Valery is a dedicated wife and mother. When she is not helping women break chains of powerlessness over food, she is a running baseball mom of her boys and supporting her husband, who is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. Oh, Valery, I am so excited to welcome you to the show. Welcome.
I am so honored to be here. Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure to be here.
You're so welcome. And I appreciate you saying yes when we had the conversation before, because I really believe that your story is one that I believe many women and men are going to be able to relate to, because it has to do with our battle with food, because I'm pretty sure every single one of us has experienced that at some level, right? But before we go into your battle with food, can you share with the What Now tribe a little bit more about who Valery is, maybe some about your childhood, how you got here to America, and also, you know, just your background. Can you share with us, please?
Yes, of course. Yes, my story is vast, but it certainly cannot go untold. I was born and raised in Peru, and I lived there until I was 18 years old. I have, my mom and dad are still together, and I have a twin brother and an older brother. And the culture is really different. So by the time we were 18, I was about 18 years old. My parents made a decision to move to the United States for better quality of life, for political, social, economical situations. We're just like crashing there. So they're really, we're really grateful that they made that decision. Had they not, I don't know where we will be, but that of course entails into major change, right? Is saying goodbye to all that, family, friends, neighborhood. Had just finished high school after being 17 years or 12 years with the same people. So that's the complexity in the relationship. It's all the same people from when you start school until you finish. So there was a lot of things ending in my life, and huge new beginnings with, I knew a little bit about English, but all of a sudden I came to the United States to learn, after having that void and that sadness and that pain, to learn English as a second language and to have a job and to actually provide for the family. As children, we started providing for the family. So that was a change in itself. But I came into the United States with a lot of baggage already, because my relationship or my dance with food and body image had already started actually since I was 12 years old. So I can tell you as much as you want about that. And so that's a little bit of my background, where I came from and how I got here.
Wow, that is so much. I mean, because a complete cultural shift. I mean, it was completely different. As you said, you left behind all of your friends that you had been in school with throughout your whole education process, and then coming to a complete new country that required a new language. So you're absolutely, I mean, out of, it's like a fish out of water type of situation, right?
Yes.
But, you were asking, or stating that you'll share as much as I would like for you to, but I think it's really as much as the audience needs for you to. And I know that as well as many of us that are listening, that childhood trauma and pains oftentimes lead to the difficulties, addictions, struggles that we have going through our teenage years and then into adulthood as well, when we don't really realize what's going on. So yes,
Mhm.
please, will you share with us some of those childhood experiences that you had?
Yes, and a preamble, I just want to say that today I have an amazing relationship with my family. I believe in forgiveness and move on and letting go. I believe in full healing and restoration. And so growing up, it was different culture. My dad is Peruvian Italian, and it's just, that's a different culture in itself. And I was one of two boys. And so for us in the third world country in Peru, the women role is a little bit kind of like submissive, where you tend to the men. So I grew up like that. I grew up thinking and knowing that my best role to play was tending to the men and serving and helping my mom. And so it was limited to that to a certain extent. But I also went to mixed schools. So I learned about men. So I was really grateful my dad put me in mixed school, because I learned so much of the how really boys and older boys and teenagers show up the world besides my two brothers, right? So it gave me a broader spectrum of the different dynamics that exist. So, we had circumstances that I was always like the defensive one. I was always like defending all the cases. I would always stand and protect. Like that was my role. And so there were circumstances, even in my household, that I felt like I needed to step up and be the leader or the protector. And so that put me in a role that whenever there was breakdowns in the house, I was pointed at as the one that I was at fault. So in very little age, everything that was happening in my house, I was the one to blame. And so, and at the same time, like, if we're being honest, there was a lot of like abuse, started with verbal, some neglect, where like I wanted so much to be seen. And so I was trying to get the attention, right? And it's either when you don't get the positive attention, you seek for the negative, it's attention nonetheless. So I was seeking for that, like starving, like a little girl starving for attention, at the same playing a role of a parent and playing the role of the defense. So I had this multifaceted roles and taking care, like I would take care of whoever came to the house. I was the one to give my room, and I was the one to take care of them. And one of those people that came to visit, and this becomes a surprise to many of the listeners that know me, but I'm just here to be honest, because I know in the audience, people need to hear, and not to just say me too, but to understand that the complexity of when you decide to stay quiet, it's things grow inside of you in ways that they're never meant to. So I want my story to be the purpose to ignite that awareness within you that being silent no longer serves you, and you need to honor your voice. And so one of those people that came to visit always was my grandfather, and I tend to him all the time, and him and I had an amazing relationship. And it was like, he called me his favorite granddaughter, and he was my grandfather, the one that came from America, bringing all this stuff, right? So I was like, oh, I want, and I'm a caretaker, so I would take care of him with love. And for years, there was this negotiation of, if you give me this, if I give you this, then you give me a kiss. If you give me this, you give me that. But I didn't think anything of it. But because I was the favorite granddaughter, I was asked to stay quiet because everybody else is going to be jealous, right? And I already felt like I didn't, like, oh, it's my time. I'm being seen. I'm being, something. So that dance remained for like about 3 years, I would say, since I was 12, like 2 years strong. And it just kept getting more intense as I was developing as a girl. And so, and the day came, unfortunately, that he just decided it's almost like he forgot, and he honored the man in him, that he forgot he was my grandfather. And so I was sexually abused by him, and that scarred me. But in that moment, I blamed myself. So from that moment on, I was like, what am I going to say? Who's going to believe me? I better stay quiet. And I just felt already, because I was already feeling a little bit inadequate, it added more into my, I'm just going to stay quiet because I wanted to protect the reputation. I didn't want to hurt my parents' feelings. And I kept it all inside, like as it is my fault, I caused it, therefore I don't say anything. And that, Marcy, grew inside of me and was just like coming out sideways. And I started being to myself to match what had happened before with the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, there was some drinking and me coming to the defense. So all that, and me wanting to be seen, to finally be seen, to be so loved, to my world crashing down. And I was like, why do I even exist? Like, what am I here for? So then the world of pretend became my face.
Wow.
And I carried that well for many years. But yeah, so throughout the years, it just kept coming sideways and kept manifesting in different ways. And even as I shared after years, because I kept having this nightmare, I kept having this dream. And I haven't even mentioned how all this started with my relationship with food. As you see, so much in my life was out of control that the one thing that was always there, readily available, legal, served, and told, hey, you can't have this, to say, well, maybe I can manipulate the situation. Maybe I can find my way around it and get away with it. Maybe I can do this. I realized that I was good at it. Like they were not noticing my actions. So I was like, oh, so then this world of pretend grew into, I pretend that I didn't eat, or I'm not eating in secret, but I became as sick as my secrets.
Wow. Wow. Well, so much of this having started with, first of all, your lack of worthiness, right? Your thought of unworthiness, not being worthy of being seen, not being worthy of being cared for and honored, right? Was reinforced then with the behavior of your grandfather, which I know that you love him and adore him and appreciate the things that he has done for the family and even in your parents as well. But he was someone that you trusted, and that made it really difficult to continue trusting. So you fell into something that you could trust. And that was your ability to control the atmosphere around food.
Yes.
No matter what you had to do, food actually became your master, didn't it?
It did. So it was first my friend who didn't hit me back, didn't talk back to me. I could combine it in ways that I could chew it as many times as I could choose whatever I wanted, right, in secret. And it became the one thing that I could control when so much out of my life was out of control. And it became to the point, can you believe, Marcy, I thought I had made this up. I thought I was the one that, I am turning to food. I can eat it when I want. And I got really creative in different in ways of getting rid of it as well. And also not eating it. So yeah, it became my master, because it's like, okay, it's almost like, who is your master? Somebody that's in your control. So that's the power I had given away to something. Was I in chains? Was I physically slaved? No, but is the power I had given to it, because there was so little that I thought of myself. So it was this internal thing, like against, when are you a slave? When it's something against your will, right? I did not think or know that I know now. Like I want to tell everybody, like I tell people that I teach, you have a will. You can make decisions. Like even if you made one wrong decision right now, you can make the next right thing. You can decide to do the next right thing. But because I lived in this place of condemnation, when I made one bad mistake, shame and guilt that were rooted, deeply rooted, and the longer I was doing it, became deeply rooted, became this vicious cycle that I was feeding the guilt and shame that would only keep me trapped, only keep me digging deeper into that hole, keeping me like really, really stuck.
Wow.
Into a point that I really didn't think there was a way out.
You know, that example that you gave of you were in chains, right? A physical example of maybe your arms, your wrists being in chains or your legs being shackled. That's a really good example of what is actually going on inside of your brain when you have guilt and shame come into play combined with addiction, right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, yes, you have a will, but when you have guilt and shame that is constantly beating you up, it's like having those shackles on your decision-making abilities, maybe not
Yes.
physically, but inside of your mind. And that is a very powerful place to give up that power.
Yes. And it's a self-imposed slavery. It's self-imposed slavery.
So what was that like, realizing that you were like self-imposing this slavery on yourself with food? What was that like as a child?
Well, I didn't realize it until later on. I didn't realize it until many years later. I became a master at being mastered by food.
Wow.
And
So
it was even like a dance. It was my friend, my lover, my everything, you know,
Wow.
like my God, to be honest with you, and my enemy at the same time.
Wow.
You know, I loved it when I ate it and I hated it after, and then I ate some more, and it just became thing. And I'm being like really honest on like how really bad it got, because it really embraces it because it comes in a very subtle, sneaky, conniving way, because it's always there, it's readily available, and it's legal. Like I said, it's not like, oh, it's not a drug addiction, but it's even more disempowering, right? Because this is the importance of it, because you need it to survive.
Yes.
So in order to really, you have to like change completely the power you give it. It all starts in the power of the mind. Like you said, in my mind, I was putting the shackles of guilt and shame and keeping me in that cycle. And in my mind, I needed to set myself free, knowing, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. And that's why my mission and my goal is to ignite that level of awareness, to realize that you have a power inside of you that needs to be tapped in, and you can break free from those chains. Yes. Right. And it doesn't have to take 20 years like it took me, in the slow process, because I was the guinea pig, the trial and error in all these different ways. And the most recent awarenesses of setting myself free to deep new levels have been just incredible. As you mentioned, addiction, right? It took me to that level where, oh, Marcy, then food wasn't enough. So I had to really use other liquids and other substances and other acts along with eating, because it just wasn't enough. There was a void inside of me that was insatiable, that no amount of food could ever feel.
Wow. Yeah. So it's almost like a gateway. It's a gateway addiction to other addictions. And I think a lot of people don't understand the illnesses that can come along with a food addiction and having it control your life like that. And I know you experienced bulimia, right? Can you share
Mhm.
a little bit about that time period of your life? And then I'd love to hear, how you started to have this light going on inside of you,
Mhm.
that you really started to realize and you had a serious problem.
I did, yes. And yeah, thank God for the awareness, right? And so early on, body image has always been very important, and even in my early bringing up, and as my body was developing, and I used to make TV commercials, and then my body kept developing, and I kept gaining a little bit of weight and everything, and then I would go and cast, and they would tell me no, 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 and then they accepted me, and I cast for eating. Go figure. And so the messages were that, and that was the last TV commercial I made in 17. But I started dancing with this, the bulimia after the sexual abuse, because I wanted to numb the emotions, but I didn't want to gain weight. So I figured, oh, I heard somebody else doing it. I was like, or somebody else saying that they had done it. I was like, oh, I'm going to try it. I was like, I have the best of both worlds, right? I can eat as much as I want. I can suppress all my emotions or mask them or pile them down, keeping in this world of pretend, and, come out with a smile on my face, like nothing had happened. And I can get rid of it. I can get rid of it by not eating, or by purging, or by over-exercising. Like, again, it's a way of control. How can I eat you? When can I eat you? What game can I play within? Totally disregarding who I was, how I was hurting myself. And so it came to a point that I was so hungry to be loved, accepted, approved, validated, that I call this the chameleon effect. I would do, and to a certain extent, right? It started subtle, and then it just became, yet again, another game where, in order for me to feel like I fit in, I became whoever the next person wanted me to be. I changed my colors. Again, I became a master at pretending. And so that you could only do it so much, right? So then it took the guilt and the shame, and it was just, oh, it's like eating me inside. And so that demanded for me to even eat more, to suppress more, and then to purge more. And it just became this sickness, because I had consequences. I had arrhythmia. I will pass out while driving and crash. I had my esophagus rupture. I was in the hospital many times, and I would leave because I didn't want to be treated. I did not want to escape this. Like I said, I was just so trapped in that cycle, vicious cycle that kept me so trapped, so dragged down. And I had completely lost my sense of self.
Yeah. Well, and being treated would also mean that other people would know.
The truth exposed.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So why did when you go to an emergency room and you have something blood related, then it's obviously, it's something, oh, what's going on? And I was like, oh, it's fine, and it's just a little bit. I would always minimize it. It's just a little bit, and kept going. And did I have bodily aches? Yes. Did I feel this? Yes. But again, it was all pretend. And my goodness, it got to the point that people were noticing. I thought I was like a master at it. People were noticing. Obviously, in the physical aspect, I did not look healthy, obviously. I just tried to control my body image in so many ways that they were really abusive to my body and self. Not thinking. It was just like, how do I maintain this? And how do I do this? And like, oh, I have this wedding, or I have this ceremony. And how do, and it was full of shame on the outside, all pretending that I was fine. And it was obviously not. Like, I look back at some pictures, it's like, wow, I see her pain. And it took somebody, I actually passed out one time while driving. And I was introduced to this lady, and this lady ended up to be an angel for me, because I had to do this classes, right? And then she saw me in the act, she heard me in the act, and then she asked me, it's like, Valery, did you do that? I was like, oh, no, that was there before, like, right? And then, to my knowledge, it's like, you can BS a BSer. And it took somebody that knew about it to be able to see it. And so she knew exactly what I was going through. So she's an angel. Her name is Shannon.
How old were you? How old were you when this happened?
I was 25.
25. And so you started this really horrible relationship with food when you were like 13, 14?
Yes. 14 is when I started, with the purging. Mm-hmm.
So 11 years. 11 years of this heavy load on this young woman's body and on her mind, her heart, literally, because, the purging and everything, like you said, is causing problems with your heart and a lot of other things, right? Mm-hmm. So at the age of 25, your angel comes in. And how did you start to find you? How did you start to see yourself?
So she told me, listen, I need you to call this place and tell them, and you need to go there. And I was like, oh, I called the place. Real talk here. Oh, I called the place, but they were busy. And it's
liar.
Exactly. And it's Overeaters Anonymous. Oh. And I didn't know it, but she knew it. And then she said, listen, I need you to call this other place. And if you're not going to call, I'm going to call for you. And I didn't call. And then she called. And then I received a call from the director. And this is a treatment center for eating disorders. And I had a conversation with the director, who is a male, but he also went through it. So once you can understand the hidden language and the things that are not said. Again, here I'm thinking, I'm pretending, and I am,
master, I've got this under control.
Yeah, everybody I'm fooling this one too, and I'm fooling this one too. and so I talked to him, and he planted a seed, because for me, when he's like, oh no, it's a place that you come and you stay. It's like, wait, what? Do I have to leave work? What am I going to say? What am I going to tell my parents? What are my friends going to say? What is everybody else going to say? Because I have no sense of self. But after that, she was so intelligent, because she showed a video of such thing called food addiction. And that opened my eyes to recognize that A, there was such a thing. B, I didn't make it up. 3, Valery, you failed yet again, not seen, not important. So what do I do when I come home? That's when I hit bottom, because one pot of rice was not enough. I looked at that one chocolate, and I just don't know how much time passed, honestly, but all of a sudden I go, and that's when it hit me. I look, 2 boxes of chocolate gone. I had no idea how that happened. I knew that I was eating in rage and sadness and frustration, and just like that moment where you're just like, what are you doing? But that's what it took. That's what it took. And so I picked up the phone and I made the decision, and I packed my bags, and the day came. I looked really good. I did my makeup. I put my overalls. I packed my car with a small suitcase and my bag of pretzels as my co-pilot. And I remember having the loud music and just munching away, that I didn't even want to process the fact of where I was going. the day had come. And I arrived into this place where obviously they knew that I was coming. And I still kept playing the game of pretend. And I remember showing up in this room. I was there surrounded by strangers. I come in and they're all eyes on me. It's time for lunch, Valery. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not hungry. I had just ate that bag of pretzels. And they're like, no, you have to eat. This is your buddy. And then this is the protocol and you have to eat. At that moment, my sense of control, I was like, uh-oh, and then going around in circles, I remember this moment. Valery, how do you feel? It's like for the first time, somebody asked me that really wanted to know. And it was the first time that I felt that I had made the right decision. It's the first time I didn't grab something to eat to comfort that pain. And it was the first time I started really feeling. And it was hard. It was hard because but that started my climb. But I started the climb with a really, really heavy load. So it was up to me to start make the next best decision and really, and start peeling those layers of the onion one at a time and be willing to see and be willing to go through it, because the only way out is through. See, this whole time I was just masking and pushing and shoving, but there was really indeed much to process from many years that I had just been in this world of pretend, because every time I cried or wanted to seek for help, it was not accepted. It was a taboo. It was like, no, you're fine, be fine. No need to cry, be strong. So I was, but that started my journey of really being strong, which requires the courage of seeing and dealing with every situation, to not let those circumstances dictate your actions, right? Yeah. Because just turning to food, it's an unrealistic way of meeting the real needs. All of a sudden, I was in a place where I was meeting the real needs. I was eating to survive, food for fuel, and I was feeling my feelings. So it was a process that I tell people, it's the progress is in the process, and the process is inevitable. Like pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And if you stay stuck in there, in that pattern, is constant suffering. Even if you're in this world of pretend, because the world of pretend is the cage that keeps you trapped in that slavery.
Wow. So think about this. I mean, you had to go into a treatment center in order for someone to finally see you and care and ask you how you're feeling, to start to learn the basis and the foundation that would help you become who you are today. So would you change anything about your process?
About what happened to me and everything? No, because every situation is being used in my journey. As soon as I started seeing the light, as soon as I started seeing, like, discovering me and who I was, and it came in layers, right? It came in layers, but I started like really seeing who I truly am, who Valery is. And it's a beautiful quest and process. And in that process, early on, I realized, like when I left a month after, I realized I want to give back. This is what I want to do. I don't want people to stay in this jail for so long. I don't want them. I want my aha moment to be the aha moment. I don't want it to get to that bad. I want people to learn from my consequences. So yes, people come to me and like, oh no, but you don't know. You don't know what happened to me. I'm like, yes, I know. Yes, I know that too. And yes, and not to raise a flag of, oh, look, it happened to me. No, because I truly believe that, God like uses everything for his glory. And so in my overcoming in every experience, I will say so far, 80% of it, like I've been able to help somebody with the same experience as us. So I have yet to find the other 20% that I've gone through as well. So that's why I'm in this journey of like, I've crossed that bridge while still building it, because what helped me initially didn't continue to help me. So I kept finding different ways. I kept chasing wisdom to see, well, how else can I do that? I just don't agree with this. Is this wrong? So I buy this book and I buy this book. And if you see my shelf, it's like I constantly kept educating myself. And this is when I realized it's like, you know what? There needs to be a better way developed, because this keeps people in condemnation. You need to like set yourself free from that. Like, even like we talk about the addiction, that is a new layer that I realized. It's like, once an addict, always an addict. And I don't know who the audience here is hearing, and I'm not condemning this, because this is something that saved my life, to go through the 12 steps and go through that traditional process. But in that process, particularly with food, once you say I'm a food addict and you have to do it every day, it's like you have an internal battle within that you lose your sense of, you don't know your identity. So when you say I am, really careful to what follows that. So I no longer say I am a food addict. I don't even say I'm a recovered food addict, because even in the journey of having known that, there's surrender of condemnation, because who I am and who is in me, that is my true identity.
Amen.
And that's
Amen.
why it's the empowered to the core, at the core of who you are, the essence of who you are. And mistakes are being made, and we have the gift of having a new day, and we have the gift of apologizing to yourself, apologizing to somebody else, but not through the process of condemnation, but through the process of ownership, not only of your mistakes, but ownership of who you are. So when you connect those two, you start walking in the path that, yeah, I've made this mistake. What can I do about it? Instead of, oh, let me retract and numb. And then if you make that mistake again, you have another second. The next step could be the right choice.
Yes.
So you don't stay trapped in that.
Yes, so many powerful statements that you just said there. First of all, being aware and conscious of what follows I am when you're talking about yourself, because life and death is found in the power of the tongue. The things that we think, the things that we say are what comes about in our life. And so really being careful about that. And maybe, even thinking about the shift in your life, if you're suffering with a form of addiction or making choices around whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, smoking, relationship, improper relationships, abusive relationships, any of that. If you start thinking about, in the past, I had a problem with this, or in the past, I made bad choices around this, and not take it on as an ownership thing currently, but things that you had a problem with in the past. And then recognizing that everything that you do from here on out is a new choice. It's a new day. It's a new decision, and it will alter your life drastically. That is so, so powerful. And I love the word surrender. You don't want to surrender to the negative, but you need to surrender to the process of finding yourself, of learning new things. I love that you talk about personal development and reading books and searching out for yourself, because I think that we are in a culture and an environment that way too many people have gotten so used to just believing those people that they think are in authority, whether it's for their medical or whether it's for, wherever you live, things that go on in government, whatever. I think way too often we don't think for ourselves. And so I love the idea of surrendering to your own personal power and making decisions and learning and growing.
Yes. And the biggest room in the world is the room of improvement. So growing is an ongoing thing. I keep growing, I keep learning, and I keep expanding my wings and keep flying higher and seeing new territories and seeing, because that's never ending. It's never ending. And so it is, yes. So personal development started that journey of the personal development and see which other ways I can do. And early on, I was invited back to that place to be a leader. And early on, I realized this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So that's when I started, I started working with a licensed clinical social worker. I started giving back. I started doing groups, anger management, experiential therapy. As I was continuing my education, it was almost like a new beginning for me, because I was so confused before. I didn't even know what to go to school for. But can you believe I studied nutrition while I was in my process of eating disorder and bulimia? Like, I wanted to understand what was happening in my body and what food was going to be digested first and everything. But what at that moment was intended to be downing and like degrading, now I use for the good purpose, right?
Right. What a dichotomy
like,
you had going on there, right? Learning about nutrition so that, okay, before I throw up, I want to make sure that I've eaten this first and this
yes,
second, so that I can make sure that I get this all out in case something absorbs.
yes.
And now taking that and turning it into how you're serving people around you, people that are going through the same struggles that you went through, and the challenges that you had. It's a beautiful dichotomy.
Yes, yes. It's like God 8:28 everything, right?
Yes.
Romans 8:28. So it's everything turns to be, what is meant for evil, it turns to good. So yeah, so that's in the journey. I started learning all this, and I realized, and I was like, you know what? So I really, honestly, I'm not telling anybody to stop going to this 12 steps, but in case of food, I realized that I really needed to restore that relationship. Not just like, I have to eat, because that was almost being in a different cage, having a different master, but it was still slavery, because I had to do it this way and I had to do it this way. So the process that makes it's best to understand is to understand really how your body works and what it needs, and then the meaning that you give to food. So it's like, that's like a beautiful dissecting thing that gets to the root, and not in 20 years that it took me, right? So it's the implementation of all these different philosophies and understanding to come up with my own, that is really transcribed as the beautiful process of the transformation that the butterfly goes through from caterpillar until it becomes the butterfly, right? It goes through like this incredible journey that it's necessary. It's necessary. And like right in the middle, when it's in the chrysalis, the butterfly is willing and surrenders in that moment, knowing that it's attached to its source to become something that is not, that it hasn't been, to become mush, to be willing to go through that process of true transformation, to be able to really like shed the layers, shed the old, and to become completely anew and transformed. And so I've even studied like the butterfly, because God gave me a butterfly that I was a mom to for 9 days, and taught me so much that through my process now, it's where food meets faith and like science meets nature. And the core is, as I said, the essence of who you are, which and it's like your heart. It's your heart. The whole core of the butterfly is actually the heart. The heart is the core. And so, and then how we have our will, our mind, and emotions, and we have our mind and our emotions in our heart. And what do we have in the middle? We have, like you said, the power of the word, and we also have what we put in. So how we relate to food, if you think about it, is the most intimate, and it's the most intimate relationship that you can do. It's so sincere and sensitive. So it's almost like I teach people, because it's in my journey of becoming, I have learned the wisdom that it's not just what you eat, it's also how you eat it and why you eat it. And so it is a whole process. And also, if we go deep, you realize it's also what has been eating you. And so it's awareness is key. And, going back to basics when I teach, is like awareness, behavior, and change. And to separate the actions and decisions, which is the behavior is everything you do, with your identity. Separate those two. And then once you see it outside and you become aware beyond what you see, and then you see how the patterns of behavior have been created and how they can be broken and restored and recreated in the neural pathways, and then change as accepting that is, many people avoid change because change is like, oh, I got to change this way. I got to, it's hard. But if you think about it, look at nature, is that only constant? It is inevitable.
Yes.
And in this case, it's necessary.
Yes.
And
absolutely is.
Doable.
Yes. And completely normal. Yes. And guess what? Change is not always something that feels good. And so understanding that pain does come, but it's okay. You just need to push through that feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel it.
But
know then the next day or the day after that, things will be better. So we already discovered that you would not change anything about your process.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were able to go back to the young Valery and share something with her back when she was first, developing this bad relationship with food and the way she was thinking about herself, what would you say to her?
As a matter of fact, I want to show you something, because I actually keep her next to me, because
that's awesome. So describe it though, for the audio vidience, describe what that is.
So that I have next to me a picture of my little girl. In fact, she was 9 years old. And this is when she has a subtle smile and some sadness in her eyes. And so I try to meet those needs of that girl. And what I say is like, I wish I had seen you before. I wish I had met you before all this. And it came to a point, I've told you, that I forgave all my aggressors. I also told you that I became my aggressor to match the pain that was familiar. So for me, the day had come that the pain of holding on was far greater than the pain of letting go. And when I saw the letting go, that's when I saw me. And I realized that the one that I owed the most a big forgiveness was myself. Because you carry yourself every day, and so it's like you're your companion for the rest of your life. So you might as well enjoy the company. If there's something that you don't like or that can be changed, do it for the better of that. And so for the better of your whole being. So when I look at that little girl and I try to see, it's like, what do you need? Before I do anything, it's like, what is your true need? How can I nurture you? And so that's what I would tell my old self, my little girl. I know others didn't see you. I wish I had seen you before. I wish I had really seen you. And just like, just to say, I am sorry. I am so sorry for everything I put you through. Sorry for all the times I didn't honor you. And I stepped over you and I didn't care about your internal, physical, mental, emotional pain that I try to numb it and pretend that it wasn't there. So that is something that I will tell my old self. And I actually have had the opportunity of having had that moment, you know, where there's that full embracement followed by joy. Joy of being, as I told you, I know the despair that comes of being so unhappy with the way you eat and in my body, and just like disgusted and busted and, you know, feeling like complete mistake. And I also know and feel what it is to be at peace and enjoy, in not only with the way you eat, but like a peace in my body, that I fit in my own skin, and that I checked with my old self and my future self, and I become whole. It is so important to become whole. So it is possible, and it is a beautiful journey. And so that day came for me where I was able to tell, I love you, looking at myself in the mirror. That was a hard process. So I do a lot of mirror work, because it is something that is hard. We often look at the mirror to see how something fits, or if our makeup is okay, or, you know, those critical words
to judge ourselves,
or judge
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But it's like to be intentional come from that place of intimacy with yourself and love. And it's not a bad thing. Like self-care and self-love are not selfish, are necessary. And so when and that moment came for me, Marcy, where I was able to like say it to the point that I believed it, connected it, and truth be told, I was so happy in that moment that I wanted to see myself for who I truly was. And I started taking my clothes off to see and accept myself fully, when in the past I had hated myself. And so I was jumping of joy on bed, like, yes, you know, that moment came, and I was taking care of myself and putting a flower and setting my table and cooking a healthy meal. And it was like a complete transformation.
That's so beautiful.
And that is my desire for others.
So being somebody looking from the outside in to you, as you're saying to your younger self, Valery, I forgive you. I would actually even say, I thank you. I thank you for being so strong. I thank you for putting one foot in front of the other foot all of these years, even though it was so hard, because everything that you have withstood and gone through has helped me become someone that can help someone that's just like you.
Yes. Yes. And that's the sense of it's embracing the past, embracing who you become, have gratitude for the steps taken, because I could have easily not have taken that step, you know. Right. And yes, to that girl that was resilient. Yes. She had to be to cope with things, but then it was almost like an internal battle, resilient against me. So that was a process, because she was mad. She was hurt, she was mad, you know, but it comes through you. It comes through you. So we are created so intricately and so beautifully, and there's such complexity in our beings that is often confused, at least it was for me, for complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. It really comes to the terms of just, that's what I'm saying. It's like connecting with the nature. If you see how nature is and how we're created, and that's why I teach in the methodology, so you can really connect and realize it's like, wow. And the awareness and the behavior and the change are not for condemnation, but are for exploration and discovery. So we can intentionally let go of those things that no longer serve us. So we continue our climb with a light backpack, or no backpack at all, because as you climb the mountain, even if you fall back, those steps that you have taken forward, nobody's going to take those away from you, you know. So you just unload your bag and then keep moving forward. And it's this dance. People think it's a straight shoot line. It's not, because life happens, circumstances happen, but the thing is to not let the circumstances around you derail you from your path and from circumstances around you to dictate your next action, which is,
Yes.
and it's just, so it's a process. It is not a straight line, as almost nothing in this earth, in this world is. So it is a journey. It is a journey, and it is beautiful. And sometimes it takes you sideways, sometimes it takes you that. But as long as you remain hungry, like that hungry caterpillar went from leaf to leaf eating because he knew its purpose.
Yes.
So you know that the purpose is bigger than you, bigger than your pain, then your pain will become your story, and it's your plan for your purpose.
Yes,
So,
I love that. I love that. So it's easy to see how passionate you are about empowering people to their core. And I know you primarily work with women, but I know that this has been an episode that men will have learned so much from as well. And, I would love for you to share how people can connect with you, how they can follow you, how they can see what you've got going on, what's upcoming, because I know you've got a lot of stuff constantly that you're offering to the people that you want to serve. How can people connect?
yes, so the best way, I'm mainly in Facebook, although I'm gonna do my appearance more often on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and you find me as Valery with a Y, with a letter B in the middle, and Ireland. And there's a story behind the B, which it has become like the anchor of my middle name, which is what I'm called to be. And to be and become, and it's the process of the butterfly. So I will have I have either a master class coming up, or a challenge, or a kickstart, or something going on. And I have a link there that if you want to connect with me and do a discovery call, it's complimentary. I'm here to serve, and I can add you to the group, and we can start this journey. Because what I feel was the most value for me at the beginning was having a place that I could express myself, because self-expression it's not only a gift, it's a responsibility. So having a safe space that you can have that, and have somebody be surrounded with people with mind like you, and also with somebody that understands you and is able to guide you to the next step, then you realize that feeling that you think is going to kill you, it's not. And it's just, and once it's out, then you're able to move on to the next thing. So you can reach me on Facebook, and there's a link there for my Calendly, and we can book a discovery call, and then I can add you to my group, which obviously, for obvious reasons, I keep private. And yes, I'm currently doing a group coaching into the Empower to the Core, and then it goes to the next level. So yes, it's unending, right?
Yes.
It's a beautiful process of discovery, and really honoring all that you are, which is more than what society is making you be. I'm here to like flip the tables of it. There's so much I didn't get to talk about, but there's there's it's on your face, like everywhere. It's commercials, TV, media, the food industry, the health industry. They're all there to keep you stuck and sick and trapped in all these patterns that I'm here to just ignite that within you, so you see what power you have inside. So I'm just here like to guide you, and to offer that space, becoming that empowered, and you realize it's like, I can do this. And so yes, so that will be the best way. And then you can just get into the world of all that I'm doing, and as I'm going to keep putting more things out there too.
That's amazing. It is such an important purpose and passion. So, what would be your final words for the What Now tribe? With your episode title being You're a Slave to Food, What Now? Valery, final words.
Yes. So there is no master out there that is worth your suffering. There's one that has already suffered for you. And you don't need to earn the love of anybody. You are loved, approved, validated, embraced, and whole, perfect, just as you are right now. Right now.
Amen.
I wish I had heard those words before. And it took me a long time. Just know that you don't have to do one more thing to earn any more love. So there's only one master, and we choose to call him Jesus.
Amen.
And we serve him, and he gives us the freedom and to know. And once you know that who you are at your core, and you realize it's like, you get to take care of your body. It is an honor. It is a duty. It's a responsibility. And this is the house of all your creativity, your integrity, your spirit. Everything that lives in you is in this body. And you only have one. And it's your responsibility to steward it well, to take your ship in this big, vast ocean and to take care of it the way it deserves. And there's so many people out there that are trying to get you. And it's just, that's another thing, and there's no diet that works, and there's no diet. Trust me, I have done it all. This is like the no diet way of really finding this as a lifestyle. And it is your life, and you're worth it.
Amen.
And so work it, you're worth it.
Amen. Beautiful final words. And I just want to put this out there too. If there's anybody that's listening that doesn't know who Jesus is, doesn't know what we're talking about, when we talk about you being loved and that he's already suffered so that you could not have to suffer the way that he did, reach out to myself, reach out to Valery, because either one of us would be more than happy to talk to you about Jesus. But Valery, thank you so very much for being an amazing guest today, for being so vulnerable and being willing to share your story at such a deep level. Because many times we do try to put on that mask. Many times we do try to cover up our pain. But as this podcast is designed for, it's to highlight the pain, but then to show the path to be able to get out of it. It's all the breakdown to breakthrough stories. So thank you so much, Valery, for being my guest today.
Thank you. Thank you. What an honor to have been here. I appreciate the opportunity, because it is so important that people know that there is a way out, as I said, and the way out is through. So please, if it's not me, find a mentor, find somebody that you feel safe speaking to. And staying stuck is not the way. You have so much to live for, and really life is good. Life is good, and it is meant to be enjoyed. So
yes, it is. Thank you so much, Valery.
Thank you very much.